Maximum control zone is reclassified as Class G airspace. Planetary broadcast zone will proceed to supply frequency 132.8. Preferred runway direction is 29.
I've been looking forward to spending some time away from work, just relaxing. Really wanted to get my scuba diving license. That was the one thing that I really was planning on doing in the Cayman Islands.
Pete was saying, "Yeah, I need a holiday. I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna visit you. I need 3 weeks in the sun, etc., etc."
I spoke to Pete briefly, and he said, "You know, why don't you come out to Cayman?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, it'd be great." I think we probably talked about it down a pub one night, and obviously, when you're in a pub, it's a good idea. And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be brilliant."
They were very lucky because Hurricane Charlie had just passed through and followed very closely by Hurricane Francis. Florida wasn't having the greatest of hurricane seasons.
And we chatted at that point about it being hurricane season, and I really didn't attach any importance whatsoever to that.
Paul was working that night, so he sent his friend to come and meet us, and he drove us to where Paul was working in a studio filming Cayman Islands' answer to Pop Idol.
The StarQuest, which was Cayman's answer to Pop Idol.
Not long after they'd arrived, I mentioned to them that there was another hurricane on its way, Hurricane Ivan, and it was heading, at the moment, it was heading northwest.
Paul was quite ambivalent about it because hurricanes so rarely hit the Cayman Islands. Hurricanes always go north.
The weather wasn't great. We had a few days when the weather wasn't great because obviously the hurricane was approaching, and we'd heard, that this Hurricane Ivan was approaching, but it doesn't really ever seem to hit home how bad it could be.
It had already hit Grenada and caused a catastrophe, and a lot of people died. It then went on and did the same to Jamaica. A lot of lives were lost, and it was heading straight for Cayman. And it's heading, if you follow the path, it's heading straight to this little island here, just south of Havana. That little island's called Grand Cayman. It had actually been downgraded from a Category 5 to a Category 4.
At the time, we were joking and laughing about it and just saying, well, it's going to be Category 4. I don't want to be in a Category 4 hurricane. If we're going to be in a hurricane at all, I want to be in a Category 5. And then it went back up to Category 5.
We had this duct tape. We put big X's on the windows.
That's what it's.
Yeah.
On 95.
Yeah, I can't help but think that this was wasting our time because the whole wall was going to fall off.
And also the direction had changed slightly, and it started heading more. It had made a beeline for us, and it looked like it was definitely going to hit us. But because it had been so long since Cayman had been hit by a hurricane, people weren't really prepared.
Oh, look at that. I believe we have... Yes, it's a wind cheater.
Oh, brilliant.
We took it pretty much on the chin in that we were joking about it, and I think as anyone would, I was really looking forward to a hurricane. I thought, yeah, we'll get somewhere safe, it'll be great for a day or whatever, and then we'll carry on life like we've been for a hurricane. And we couldn't have got it more wrong, really.
Have we just lost power?
Yep.
For about 20 to 5, we've lost power. That face.
And then the next day it was, okay, hurricane's coming. And again, we got a little leaflet from Paul's landlord warning us about what to do and to get supplies.
So we got this letter through saying it's going to hit. Good luck, which was nice. And we went out shopping for rations. We were thoroughly prepared. We really took it seriously. We went to the shops, we bought a loaf of bread, some cookies, and 72 cans of beer.
We went outside to think about packing the car with all the essentials and get out of there. As we went outside, Pete and I went outside, and the palm tree started bending towards my car. We both sort of ran back in and slightly panic-stricken, saying, right, let's get out of here.
It was time to get moving.
That's the first time I really felt, something's happening here.
And the plan was to go and stay at Paul's boss's place of work. It was a community centre.
And then we were driving down there, pretty much joking again, we were the hurricane chasers, the twister chasers, whatever, you know, we're joking about it and so forth.
As soon as we got there, I felt more relaxed. Howie's place was huge, big corrugated iron roof, solid steel girders. The whole structure looked extremely solid. So it was like an aircraft hangar with a basketball court underneath, a stage up one end, and a reinforced concrete box of a room underneath the structure. And I thought, if you're going to sit out a hurricane anywhere, this is a good place.
So we get there and there's a few mattresses to go around. I think there's probably about 20 people in the room now. And there's a lot of Howie, who's the guy who works there, his staff, a lot of Filipino guys who are very resilient, just get on with stuff. They're not worried. They're quite good to have around, I think, because, you know, they kept everyone cool-headed. And obviously there's me, Pete, Paul, a few other people scattered around. Some of mattress, some of that. We just had we managed to borrow some pillows and so forth and just lay there.
And we thought, well, get used to it. We've got a generator, we can watch a bit of TV. We had plenty of beers, of course. How does it feel?
Well, I can't lie to you. I've got to say that it feels absolutely fantastic.
We thought it was going to be an exciting and interesting night. And because Pete had his video cam, we said, well, let's do an on-the-hour news broadcast.
So Paul and I went outside every hour to check on the weather.
9:30 on the 11th of September, my birthday, and as you can see, it's starting to pick up a little bit. The palm trees are bending. We've already lost quite a few leaves off this. Come around here, I'll show you the flooding that's begun.
To be quite honest, for the first few hours, it was disappointing. I really expected it to be blowing a little bit more than it was. I really expected it to be a bit more impressive.
This is hopefully a safe place to park the car. However... Okay, it's now 20 to 1, 12:40. And as you can see, if you look at the trees there, we've got quite a wind going on, probably about 100 miles. Gradually the wind was getting stronger and stronger. And there was a point where this huge branch of a palm tree just came flying down, spinning through the air and landed about a foot away from Matt.
It got to the point where it started to get a little bit worrying, so we stepped back inside for a bit. And it was funny because Paul had parked his car outside and suddenly decided, well, actually, I don't think it's that safe, so I'm gonna bring it inside the building where a few other cars were parked. So.
But it wasn't raining particularly hard, which we thought was a bit weird. I don't think we're totally aware of what's called storm surge, where the pressure from the hurricane, that literally pushing down on the sea, raises the sea level.
Eventually, the water came in around the building, and then up the step and through the corridor and through the bottom of the door where we were all trying to sleep.
There was a little bit of panic, but perhaps more alarm about, the fact that water was coming in and we were probably, a foot or two off the floor.
There were a lot of chairs. It was a community centre, so down one wall there were loads and loads of chairs. And Howie said, would we mind helping out, picking up the chairs, unstacking them, and stacking all the equipment in the room on those chairs.
We had to put this stuff on chairs and then find other chairs to sleep on for the rest of the night. Pete made a comment at this point as the water level was slowly rising.
At that point, I thought, we're really not, this isn't a long-term solution, this is pretty short-term.
So we'd lifted everything off the floor, and everything's on chairs, and we'd made new beds, just pushing chairs together.
When I woke up, I could hear this sploshing sound as people waded through this water, and I was lying on my side, and when I opened my eyes, the water level was about here.
At that point, we said to Howie, what do you want us to do with the equipment? And I remember Howie turning around and saying, to be honest, I think we should forget the equipment, and I think we should concentrate on getting everyone out.
We had a decision made that perhaps the equipment was lost now because it was quickly coming over the chairs. and we had to think about ourselves. At this point, I decided to actually literally rip one of the curtains that were pinned against the windows across to look outside, and the water level outside was about a foot or two higher than where we were.
And what surprised me most about it was the things that we saw, the debris that was out of the windows. There was all these what looked like wardrobe doors floating outside the windows, and it was at the level of the windowsill, so 3 or 4 feet of water out there.
And we had to climb through the window because we couldn't open the door to get out.
There's a bit, I went clambering over a sink to get out this window, and then I hand him my bag whilst I climb out, and I jump out, and I'm just suddenly plummet into, you know, kind of mid-chest height, freezing cold water, which really put a shock into me. And then I've got to grab the bag off him and climb up this these stairs in a wind and like white water. The spray coming off essentially the sea was intense.
Absolutely howling, and it was white because there was so much water in the air that it was like a fog. But you could see on the other side of the alley bits of corrugated iron being torn off buildings and shooting past.
So we called 911, the emergency services.
This was about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they said it's going to get worse. And having climbed through what we thought was the hurricane, that was quite bad news. And then the storm hit.
The winds picked up even more. The building started to twist, and the ceiling started to wobble, and basically people were just silent.
And then the ceiling fell in. Midway through the storm, we saw Paul's car, and it was in the middle of the car park, floating merrily away, and next to it was a butane canister that the valve had been knocked off the top, and it was spinning around and around right in front of Paul's car. It was a big 6-foot canister.
At this point, I started to feel quite seriously claustrophobic almost, because I felt like I was trapped upstairs and the sea level rising, and at the speed it was going, we didn't know where it was going to stop.
It was probably about 4 hours where we were completely terrified.
I was 99% convinced that we were going to die.
There's no way from that point on you could relax at all, because the roof had fallen in, part of the roof, and so we were terrified. This went on for hours.
Mel actually at one point called the Philippines and spoke to his family and said goodbye to his wife and his kids, because he thought himself that he was not going to see them again. And I'm sure they're very happy now.
You can imagine terror, and as most terror we experience is for a few seconds, and this was going on for hours, and more roof fell in later on. It was getting dark again now, so we knew we were going to be in there for the following night.
The second night, we thought that the hurricane had turned around. It intensified again, and it got stronger and stronger and stronger, and I was really concerned that it had turned around and it was coming back. The corner of the building had been torn off the night before, and I wasn't sure how solid the whole building was.
That night should have been more relaxing, but it wasn't. It seemed to get worse again for a long time, I recall. When it did die down a lot, we managed to get outside, and I'd been shining a torch across to a church and there were people in there shining torches, and we'd actually connected beams in the sky, and they'd followed each other, and it was a nice way of making contact.
I finally managed to get about 2 hours sleep the second night, and woke up and found the room empty. We'd been in this room for 48 hours, and everyone had gone. Everyone had woken up and left, which was great. The relief of waking up in that room and everyone had gone was fantastic.
Hurricane Ivan. Hurricane Ivan the bastard. These windows are going to go there.
And we had a little wander around where we'd been, and we were just taking, notice of the way huge trailers had been relocated, hundreds of meters down the road. Things had gone, Paul's car had floated away and pretty much come back. It was full of water, opened the doors, let it all out. It was just, it was incredible. The church across the road was all crooked. We pretty much decided to try and go back to Paul's house, because pretty much the whole time we'd been there, Paul had been pretty much devastated that he may have lost everything. And I certainly felt for him in that respect.
That 36 hours did that take?
Yeah. What else can we say? We survived, that's the main thing. Only just.
Yeah.
And we're about to find out what happened to the dwelling that once was.
This is Paul's
I
house.
was standing in the hallway trying to get water to go out, and it was sort of quiet down a little bit, and then
There's the big hole in the ceiling.
I don't know if it was a lull or whatever, but it picked right back up, and that.
After the hurricane. It's very lovely. Up here we have a nice big hole in the ceiling.
The place stunk. We had no power, we had no water, so we said, let's clean up. And Pete and Matt got the mop and broom out while I took some more photographs, and they started cleaning the lounge.
Look at this. We are now cooking up with our makeshift cooker a full gourmet meal.
Paul and Matt had gone into the house to go and get some water, and they found a crab in the kitchen, and it was huge. It was bizarre. It's one of those things, when the sea comes into your house, all the sea life comes with it.
The devastation was terrible. We saw some houses that were just a shell, had lost all walls and the roof. The place was trashed. It was just, and you hear people say, turned into a third world country overnight. It really did look like that, or that there'd just been an air raid overnight. Someone had dropped a bomb on the island, and it had rained. That's what it looked like.
Paul was obviously upset about the loss of his belongings, and I think soldiered on, but a couple of times looked so distressed. I felt really bad, and these things went on, for I guess 5 days really. We went to the airport as soon as we found out it was open, and queued up for 7-8 hours.
Those people who had queued all day were given priority the next day, and when we went down the next day we only had to queue for about 4 or 5 hours before we got on a flight.
And of course to get to Miami was, it was a relief in itself. And having got there, we decided we'd stay there for a night, got a hotel.
We found out later that Paul had managed to get off on the flight that followed ours, so we were actually sitting in Miami all at the same time. I have chatted to Paul, and obviously I still work with Matt, but this is the first time that we've got back together again since the hurricane, which was a month ago, and we've all sat around and looked at the video and tried to remember how bad it was. And
I'm hoping to go back soon. Water has been restored, power hasn't. Power is on in Georgetown, and my car is dead. My house, I don't have anywhere to live. I've lost most of my personal items.
I've still got pretty bad memories of what it was like, but I think the reality was probably worse than I remember it.
Fucking beautiful. This is a good way to end.